Have you ever noticed how, how your posture and your behavior just instantly change depending on the room you walk into?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because picture this, right? You push through the revolving glass doors of this pristine five-star luxury hotel lobby.
hmm
The marble floors are gleaming, there's this soft classical music playing, and suddenly, like without even thinking about it, you stand up a little straighter.
You do. You really do.
You lower your voice, you walk a bit more carefully, but then take that exact same version of you, right, and drop yourself into a chaotic, loud, messy roadside diner at 2 in the morning.
Oh, totally different vibe.
Right. Suddenly you're slouching, you're, I don't know, tossing your napkin on the table, you're talking over the noise. It is the exact same you, but the environment completely rewired your behavior in a split second.
It's wild. We often think of our personalities as, these fixed things, but human beings are actually highly porous.
Chorus, I like that.
Yeah, we are constantly reading these contextual cues from our environment to tell us who we're supposed to be in any given moment.
Yeah.
So when you walk into that hotel lobby, your brain registers the high degree of order and refinement, and it instinctively suppresses your base chaotic impulses to match that frequency.
Okay, let's unpack this because that involuntary shift in behavior is really the perfect launch pad for our deep dive today.
hmm
For you listening right now, whether you are gearing up for a high-stakes meeting or, you're just incredibly curious about human nature, we are unpacking a really fascinating 2007 essay by Sufeng,
Yes.
and it's titled Self-Purification is the Key.
It is a brilliant piece. The foundational premise of this essay takes that exact everyday observation about the hotel lobby and it elevates it into this unified theory of how we interact with the world.
Right.
Sufan argues that achieving inner and outer perfection, which the text calls self-purification, it creates this invisible shield. It naturally prevents others from desecrating or tarnishing you. Yeah, so the core argument is that your environment isn't just some passive backdrop. It's an active mirror of your internal state. And a highly purified state commands an automatic, almost biological reverence.
Which makes sense when you look at the physical spaces the essay talks about. It grounds this massive philosophical idea in some very tangible realities. It brings up airports, for instance.
The airport example is great.
Yeah, it contrasts the airport in Dar es Salaam, where people might, just casually toss a candy wrapper on the ground, with the airport in Singapore.
Right, where you can't find a single speck of dust.
Exactly. And people actively maintain the pristine nature of the Singapore airport. They don't want to be the one to ruin it. And the same dynamic happens in dining. I mean, nobody spits on the floor of a Michelin star restaurant.
Obviously not.
But in a rundown, cluttered roadside eatery, people do it without a second thought.
And the causality here is really what makes this compelling. Because we tend to assume that people in Singapore or in luxury hotels are just inherently better behaved people.
Right, like it's a demographic thing.
Exactly. But this essay completely flips that assumption. The argument is that a dirty, chaotic environment actively issues a permission slip for base behavior.
A permission slip.
Yeah, like when a space is messy, it signals to the brain that standards have been lowered, which just invites more mess.
Huh.
Conversely, a flawless environment demands a higher standard. It creates this psychological friction that forces people to restrain their coarser habits.
But there is a really fascinating paradox that comes with that high standard, especially when we look at retail spaces or even homes. Like we have all seen those elegantly decorated, perfectly minimalist boutique shops that are just completely empty.
Oh, yeah, like nobody wants to go in.
Almost zero customers. Meanwhile, this slightly cluttered, chaotic shop right next door is packed shoulder to shoulder. So if perfection is so compelling, why do people hesitate at the threshold of a flawless room?
It's intimidating.
Right. The essay notes that in a spotless home, guests feel restrained, their posture gets stiff, they measure their words, they feel they can't act casually. So I have to ask, are people actively respecting the beautiful shop, or are they just intimidated?
Well, the text actually says people feel unworthy of entering a highly purified space.
Unworthy. That's a strong word. So is this perfection actually inspiring us or just making us feel bad about ourselves, making us acutely aware of our own flaws so we retreat?
It's an interesting tension. That feeling of being unworthy is framed here as the genesis of reverence.
Oh,
So the spotless home isn't trying to belittle you.
right.
It's simply existing in its purified state.
Hmm.
The intimidation you feel is the clash between your casual, disorganized impulses and a state of high refinement. The environment acts as an uncompromising mirror.
Ha, I see.
It forces restraint because you subconsciously recognize that bringing your casual chaos into that space would be an act of desecration. You retreat because you just aren't ready to match its frequency.
That makes a lot of sense. And if physical architecture and interior design can exert that much pressure on human behavior, it really raises the question of what happens when a human being embodies that level of perfection.
That's where the essay gets really deep.
Yeah, because it moves from physical rooms to human bodies, and the contrast it draws is really stark.
It looks specifically at the difference in how we process erotic imagery versus masterful art. The reaction mechanism in the brain is completely different depending on the level of refinement presented.
Right, like looking at nude images in a magazine, that triggers sensual desire. It lights up the primal biological pathways.
It appeals to the base instincts.
Exactly. But standing in an art gallery, looking at a masterfully painted nude by a classic artist, those base impulses vanish. They're replaced by a profound sense of beauty that just uplifts the spirit and the soul.
And the essay pushes this even further with a hypothetical concept called the living naked beauty.
This part was wild to read.
It's quite a thought experiment. It's about encountering absolute living perfection. Imagine a person who possesses the golden ratio of perfect curves, whose demeanor exudes absolute purity, who speaks with undeniable elegance, and who radiates harmony and compassion.
And the claim made here is that in the presence of this total perfection, it is functionally impossible to entertain impure thoughts.
Right. The sheer weight of that refinement just dissipates those base impulses.
It leaves only admiration and this sense that it would be an unparalleled honor just to serve them. The idea is that any act of disrespect toward this person would instantly make you feel deeply ashamed of your own spiritual flaws.
Yes.
I was trying to map this onto an everyday experience for you listening, and the closest parallel I could think of is music.
Oh, how so?
Think about the difference between a catchy pop song and a Mozart symphony. The pop song appeals directly to the body. It makes you want to dance, to move, to consume it casually. But sitting in a concert hall, hearing a flawless rendition of Mozart, it leaves you in stunned silence. The sheer complexity and perfection demand reverence. You wouldn't dream of talking over it.
That analogy captures the mechanism perfectly. A pop song meets you at your current everyday frequency. But a masterwork, it forces you to rise to its frequency, or you just have to sit in silence if you can.
Right.
The broader picture here is that purified things elevate people. They foster nobility. By embodying true elegance and purity, a person naturally steers others away from their base instincts and toward what the essay calls the heavenly kingdom.
It's power.
It proves the central thesis, right? Self-purification prevents desecration. When something is truly pure, the impulse to tarnish it simply evaporates.
But let's look at the flip side of that. If absolute purity protects us, what is happening when we lack self-purification? Why do we attract negativity? The essay introduces a proverb here that requires a lot of unpacking.
The unbroken eggs.
Yes, flies don't land on unbroken eggs.
It's a proverb that really challenges our fundamental instinct to blame our circumstances. We spent an enormous amount of energy complaining about the flies in our lives. You know, the annoyances, the toxic people, the bad luck.
Oh, definitely.
But the essay argues that flies naturally avoid clean, beautiful places. If your life is swarming with flies, it's an indicator that your internal or external environment is compromised. It's dirty.
And it applies this to human relationships in a very confrontational way. It brings up parents who constantly complain that their children are associating with bad company.
Which is such a common complaint.
Right. The parents naturally point the finger at the other kids. But the essay argues this blame is entirely misplaced. The problem isn't the bad company. The fault lies with the children themselves who attracted them, and ultimately the parents who cultivated that environment.
And then there's that great quote, where flowers bloom, butterflies naturally gather.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting because I have to push back on this parent and child example. This sounds like a really tough pill to swallow.
It is.
It requires radical accountability. Are we really saying that if someone wrongs us or if we end up in a toxic environment, it is fundamentally our fault for being a broken egg?
It's a very challenging concept.
Like, if I get swindled, is this philosophy telling me I deserved it?
It's crucial to separate this metaphysical framework from our modern ideas of legal or moral culpability. The text isn't arguing that you deserve to be wronged in a moral sense.
Okay.
It is arguing about the mechanics of resonance. It's a philosophical stance. It demands that we purify our intentions. The text states that you cannot blame your surroundings because everything in your orbit, your spouse, your children, your era, even your race, is drawn by yourself and of your own making.
Wow.
It is an extreme internal locus of control. The logic is that an unbroken egg offers nothing for a fly to feed on. If a toxic person enters your life and stays, it means there's some unrefined crack in your own boundaries or awareness that is providing them sustenance. To fix the flies, you must clean your own courtyard.
So if I perfectly clean my courtyard, achieve this self-purification and become a metaphorical flower, do I become universally loved by the masses? Do millions of butterflies arrive?
Actually, according to the text, the exact opposite happens.
Wait, really? The exact opposite?
Yes. As you purify your environment and your internal state, your audience drastically shrinks. This is where the essay moves from daily interpersonal dynamics into cosmology. It introduces what it calls the rule of population.
Right, the physics of loneliness.
Exactly. The rule essentially states that dirtier, messier places are crowded, while beautiful places are sparsely populated.
It's the shot paradox again, but scaled up to the universe.
Precisely. It maps this onto a grand cosmic hierarchy to illustrate how refinement works. At the bottom, hell is the most densely packed, crowded, chaotic place imaginable.
Makes sense.
Then moving up, you have the animal world, which is less crowded but still driven by those dense base instincts. Then comes the human world, sitting in the middle. But as you continue to refine and purify, the population drops exponentially. The text describes realms like the 1,000-year world, which is sparsely populated, and then the 10,000-year world, which is even quieter.
Wow.
And at the absolute peak is the Celestial Islands continent, the most purified state, which is the least populated of all.
To ground those cosmic tiers for a second, it seems less about literal geography and more about states of being.
Yes, absolutely.
Like the hell state is when we are highly reactive, anxious, petty, surrounded by drama. It's crowded with noise. But as we refine our character, we shed that drama, which naturally means we shed the people who thrive on it.
Right.
So this 1,000-year world state is like a mindset of extended perspective and deep calm, which naturally isolates you from the chaos of the everyday human world.
That is precisely how it plays out. The essay calls this the paradox of refinement. When art is profound, or when a life structure becomes highly refined, its audience is inherently limited, because fewer people possess the frequency required to perceive it.
So you just end up lonely in the human world?
Essentially, yes. There is a beautiful progression the text uses to explain this concept of subtlety. It starts with tangible things and moves into the invisible.
I love this part.
Yeah, think of grains of sand by the sea. They're delicate. But the silt at the bottom of a lotus pond is finer than the sand,
Okay.
and the wind is subtler than the silt. Light is more delicate than the wind. And ultimately, emotions that stem from a purified soul are subtler than light.
It's a progression of tangibility. As you undergo self-purification, your internal state moves further away from the heavy, crowded realities of the base world.
Exactly. And the essay claims that when a person's heart enters what it calls the antimatter world, their emotional state becomes almost empty, imperceptible.
Antimatter world sounds a bit like science fiction. But in this context, what does it actually mean for a person's emotions?
Think of matter as the dense, heavy stuff of human conflict. Jealousy, anger, loud desires.
The drama.
Right, the drama. The antimatter world is a state where the particles of your emotion are so fine they no longer interact with that heavy matter. To an ordinary human operating in a dense, reactive state, your calm might look like emptiness.
Interesting.
They can't process your lack of anxiety. They can't understand why you don't engage in their drama. Your emotions become mysterious, invisible to them. They just can't understand it.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Is the ultimate goal of self-purification just to be totally isolated and misunderstood by everyone around you? This sounds profoundly isolating.
It would be if that was the end of the story. But the text provides this reassuring insight using the classic metaphor of the ugly duckling.
Oh, right.
In the dense, chaotic human world, a highly refined person is an ugly duckling surrounded by ducks. The ducks don't understand the duckling's subtle nature. They find it strange or intimidating.
Just like people feeling uncomfortable in the spotless boutique.
Exactly. The isolation is intensely real, but it is temporary. It's a transition phase.
Because a duckling was never meant to be a duck.
Right. The loneliness vanishes the moment the ugly duckling finds the swans. The goal of self-purification isn't to be lonely forever. It is to refine your frequency to such a high degree that you eventually leave the ducks behind to fly with the swans.
You transcend that initial isolation.
Yes. You find true resonance. You purify yourself so that you can exist in the uncrowded, beautiful places of the universe, surrounded by others who've done the same work.
This entire deep dive, I mean, from a piece of litter in an airport to the subtle emotions of the antimatter world, it really forces a complete reframing of how we move through life.
It really does.
If we were to distill the core takeaways from Shufeng's essay, it's that the gate to peace, to that heavenly kingdom, is incredibly narrow. And it is narrow specifically because self-purified individuals are scarce, whereas complainers and blamers are abundant. They make up the vast majority of the crowd.
We expend a massive amount of energy swatting flies. We blame our bad company, our messy environments, our toxic workplaces. But the uncompromising truth presented here is that the external world is a flawless mirror of our internal state.
Dirty places invite litter. Pure places demand reverence.
Exactly. If you want to change the reality you inhabit, you must meticulously clean your own courtyard. Stop swatting at the flies.
So for you, the learner listening today, the application of this is immediate. Whether you are prepping for a contentious meeting or just navigating stressful family dynamics, instead of bracing yourself to control the chaos of others, what if you focused entirely on your own internal and external tidiness?
It is the ultimate shift in agency.
Right. Cultivate a presence so refined that the chaos naturally settles down when it hits your boundaries. You become the pristine hotel lobby.
You stop being a victim of the environment and become the architect of it.
Which leaves us with a final, slightly uncomfortable thought to carry with you. If this philosophy holds true, if our external reality is a perfect, uncompromising mirror of our internal state, think about the very first thing you complain about today. The traffic, a rude email, a disorganized colleague. What does the presence of that specific fly reveal about a hidden flaw in your own soul?